Hey everybody, Brad here again. Looking at my most recent videos, I put a couple up about my Honda Clarity, which I happen to be driving right now, and it seemed to be getting more views than I kind of thought it would. So, you know, it's a practical car and all the rest of that. It's not quite as exciting as the S2000 or maybe even the motorbike, but I thought it was about time that I do, well, it'd be late, a 6-month ownership review of this thing, because truth be told, I've had it since March of this year, put 14,859 kilometers on this thing. So that's a lot of good mileage, good use. You know, I think it's given me a decent understanding of what it's like to live with and to charge and to drive, both in the city and on the highway. And you know, I haven't seen another one in the city where I live. I'm not really big on, hey, I bought the first one of some car, who cares? But you know, it's interesting. If those of you are actually considering buying one, I love it, and I'll tell you why. But let's get on with it. So, as I say, what do you want to know about it? Things you should know. 2018 Honda Clarity. This is the touring model, which means it's got the leather and a few other things in it like that. Nothing too spectacular, but it does have the lane keep assist and the radar cruise control, which actually I quite like. But fundamentally, which I'm sure you're all much more interested in finding out about, is what's it like as a plug-in hybrid. So, like most hybrids, you know, well, I think all of them, frankly, that are plug-in, they come with 110 or 240, level 1 and level 2. And this particular car does not have the, what I believe is called the level 3, which is like the Tesla supercharger. The plugs also don't fit, so there's no chance that I'm going to blow my battery pack up by plugging in the level 3 charger. But, you know, typical for those kinds of things, you know, it's about 13 hours at 110 volt to charge the thing up, and you know, 2.5 hours or so at a 70 amp 240 volt plug-in, which is what I have in my garage, luckily enough. So, you know, I can drive this thing all day, and if I deplete the battery, which is about 60 to 70 kilometers, depending on how much of the heater I use, oddly enough, that it's electric heat, things like that, I can get about 60 to 70k, which means my daily commute, you know, in downtown or where I work and back can all be handled on the electric power, and having in this case, it's a 1.5 liter gas motor, just extends the range. You know, I can leave the city without fear, because you know, that thing, even though the tank is only 26 liters, that's a small tank. I mean, that's half the size, just over half the size of my S2000 tank, and that's not a big tank. I would consider it 50 liters. So you got to pay a little bit of attention when you leave the city, but between that and the battery, I've got some really decent range. And the nice thing is, in my 8 months and my almost 15,000 kilometers of travel, I have used 6.5 tanks of gas. So that would be just about 4 tanks of gas in a regular Honda Accord car of this size. So that's pretty damn awesome. Yes, obviously I've had to pay for that electricity as opposed to just a regular hybrid like a Prius that's not plug-in, where you just recoup the energy. This thing does that too, but obviously the main benefit is, even right now where I'm driving 62 miles an hour, it's fully electric, there's no gas being used. It's obviously super quiet because of that. The tires are a little noisy because they're a high-efficiency tire, and I happen to be driving on a concrete road here. It's a freeway in the city I live in. But yeah, it's pretty awesome as far as that goes. And you know, if you have to have a practical car, they shouldn't cost you a lot in my mind. Like, you know, they should be, if it's an appliance, you know, like, do you care what color your stove is? Like, maybe not. This isn't the car I'm passionate about, as in I can't wait to get in it and drive it and, you know, hoon it through corners like my S2000 or a motorbike. But, you know, we all have to have a practical car, and as far as they go, this thing is awesome for that purpose. I mean, things that matter to me, the AC and the heat work really well. There's a ton of space in it. It's actually a little bit longer, as I recall, than a Honda Accord, so it's like a mid-size car with a few extra inches in it. The trunk is huge. The batteries are, I'll do some video actually about that. The trunk is quite interesting, even though the batteries are back there. It's a pass-through, which is rare for a car that has batteries in the back, because usually the old Honda Accords, anyway, the old Honda Accord hybrids, the batteries live between where the back seats, mounted kind of right to where that was, rather, which is a long way for me to say that electricity, but so obviously the main reason I bought this car was for the plug-in efficiency that I get with it, and the fact that I can drive it almost exclusively on electric power. Now, yes, it's cheaper. Generally, electricity per mile, per kilometer, is cheaper than a gas per mile. But more importantly, the single biggest reason beyond that efficiency is that I'm not wearing out a motor. I'm not wearing out a transmission. I'm not wearing out these, high maintenance, high expense components when I'm driving this car down the road. Yeah, the brakes and the suspension and all that stuff will get worn out, but this car does in fact have a regen capability. So if I lift off the throttle like now, there's a little bit, but I can actually control the level of braking and regen with the paddles on the steering wheel. So I can drive most of the day without touching the brakes. I can drive almost all of the time during the week only on electric power. So the gas motor, I mean, I did make an oil change video about this car only because the maintenance binder was there, and it never hurts to get the first crankcase of oil out of a car when it's brand new. But honestly, the thing had what, 2,500 kilometers on it? That's ridiculous. I mean, that's 1,700 miles. Who changes their oil after 1,700 miles? I did it because I wanted to, just to get rid of the maintenance binder, and it was 8 months. But really, like, the gas motor's hardly ever been used, and therefore the transmission has hardly ever been used. This is all electric power, low maintenance, easy to charge. Like I said, I have it at my house. It's pretty easy and inexpensive to get 240 put into your house if you don't happen to have it. There are charging stations where I work and where I live that I can take advantage of if I'm shopping and things like that. So it really, as far as having a practical car, makes all the sense in the world, because why am I dragging around and paying for the power generation device when all I really need is a power storage device, which is what the batteries are. So anyway, you can tell I'm pretty passionate about the benefits of this car. Is it super exciting to drive? Of course not. It's a big sedan, and it's pretty heavy with the batteries. That being said, the instant torque you get out of an electric motor is obviously very compelling compared to if it was a four-cylinder Honda Accord counterpart. Clearly this thing would be faster. The sport mode I've actually engaged a couple times. It's quite ridiculous in a good way. The dash goes red, and then the gas motor stays on, and the regen on the brakes is very aggressive. So as soon as you lift off the throttle, it brakes for you, so you can brake quicker. And yes, if I turn the traction control off, I can smoke the tires pretty well with this thing, because again, it's got 230 pounds of torque cumulative over the 212 combined horsepower. Either way, you can tell what the main reason I have this car is not because of the performance. And yeah, the brakes, obviously, I'm sure on a track day or an autocross day they might get a little warm, but again, not why I have this car. But the net of all of it, though, is the ease of use. It's an easy car to drive. It's an easy car to see out of. It's an easy car to park, again, because you can see so well. It's got a backup camera and all the rest of the stuff that you'd expect in a car like this. But most importantly is I can drive practically all day, every day during the week, with electric power only. And until I get a Tesla, which I can't afford right now, that's what I was really looking for when it came to buying this car. So I'll do a bit of a walkthrough with it too, just so you can see some of the space in the back, and just so you can see what the dash looks like too, because it's not a typical dash because it's a hybrid, so it doesn't have gauges as you'd expect. I'll do some of that, but anyway, I'll take a break and we'll go there. Now with the camera mounted in front of me and you're looking at the dash, you can see on the left over here I have that's the charge left in the battery. Now I've been driving this thing for about that's about 25 kilometers since full, so that's not bad. And on the right side too, obviously there's the fuel. Big deal. That's typical. Again, it's a 26-liter tank. I'm amazed at how small that is, but again, the most important thing is I've used about 6.5 tanks to go the 14,879 kilometers you see in front of me now. And you can also see up on the right there, just to the right of the speedometer, that's the lane keep assist, and then the radar cruise control, which you see as well. So not really a tachometer, of course, as you'd expect. you have it's the power gauge. If I really stand on it, I can push the throttle past the détente, which will actually turn on the gas motor. And that's, if I do that, see as it gets closer to that white section off of the blue, that's where the gas motor would come on. But as you can see by the EV in the upper left, just below the D indicating drive, it's not there. So when you lift off the throttle, there's a bit of a charge, you know, it's a D-cell. A regen. I can use the paddle on the left. There's 3 or 4 arrows that indicate how much regen I can use to assist with braking. Again, I hardly touch the brake pedal in this thing, especially during a lot of traffic like this. So, as I say, this thing is it's terribly easy to live with. It's not that exciting because it's a practical car, but the main reason I bought this car was to save money, both on fuel. Like, that's a nice bonus. You know, it'll take years for that to hit a crossover point, but more importantly, it's the maintenance that I won't have to pay for. At least that's my understanding. I've owned several other cars, lots of good cars, even a couple of Mercedes, and those ones cost me so much money for maintenance for things that just shouldn't have happened, like intake manifold warpage because the one happened to be plastic, have plastic horns. And you know, I've been building cars for a good number of years of my life, and I've never seen something like that. I didn't do that one, but I did rebuild the air suspension on one of my Mercedes, and that was just ridiculous. If I didn't do it myself, it would have cost me $5 grand, and that's just ridiculous to pay for a car that's supposed to be practical and useful. Yeah, and kind of nice. It was a Mercedes, don't get me wrong, but you know, save that money for your fun cars, like my S2000 or my Ducati, which is you know, the motorbike, which I excuse me, I have with my motorbike, which I absolutely love. So it makes no sense to do that when you can get a car like this for a decent price, as comfortable as anything you've ever hoped to be in, and get the extra efficiency. So I love this car. You know, it's not perfect. Some of the negatives, I don't really have any, other than the kind of lack of, it's not that thrilling to drive, generally speaking. Of course, it understeers because it's front drive, although not as bad as I thought. There's certainly been other like V6 front drive cars that would understeer more because there's way more weight over the front than you'd expect. And of course, the battery's in the back, so it balances out a little bit. But the only other negative that I just came to my attention the last few days is the 1.5 Hondas that are in the CR-Vs and the Accords, and then obviously this car, have a oil dilution problem. So I'm going to pay attention to that. Like I said, I just changed the oil, keeping an eye on the level. What happens is these things don't get hot enough to burn off the blow-by or whatever. I mean, I don't know all the details, but the net of it is there's fuel condensation in well, it makes its way into the oil pan. So obviously that's not a good thing. You don't want to wash your dilute your oil with gas at all. So I'll stay tuned to hear more about that. I haven't heard anything from Honda telling me that I need to bring the car in for a service or a recall on that, but it's certainly something I'm paying attention to. Otherwise, I mean, honestly, it's a 1.5 liter 4-cylinder twin cam motor. How complex can they be? Again, it's got a CVT gearbox for when that thing's actually engaged, but that hardly ever runs. So if Honda hasn't figured out a 4-cylinder motor by now, I'd be surprised. So, but you know, if you have any questions about it, let me know. I mean, I've got almost 15,000 kilometers on it. Spent a lot of seat time in it, in the city, on the highway too. I can tell you more about that if you're interested. You know, it's a great car, and as I say, it's a great companion to my fun cars, because you know, we all need to have our practical cars beside all of our fun cars too. Anyway, if you've enjoyed this video, if I could please ask you to click that like button, that would really help me out. It lets me know if you guys want to see more videos like this or others. And hey, if you like some silly car videos about me and my ridiculous trials and tribulations of working on my cars, you know, maybe click that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate that too. Anyway, folks, as I always say, best of luck, happy motoring, and I appreciate all your support. Take care, everyone.